Every day, a struggle for survival plays out across Africa. Predators binge on the dead. And nature's undertakers circle above, waiting for their chance. When the mighty fall, an army descends to devour what others leave behind. For they too must nurture their precious families. This is the cleanup crew of Africa. The first rays of morning break through the clouds over the ancient cliffs of the Waterberg in South Africa's Marikele National Park. Even though a winter chill hangs in the air, the cliffs are alive with birds. Cape vultures from the largest colony in Africa soar gracefully along the sheer rock faces. It's breeding season. Here, nearly 3,000 feet above the ground, the birds and their fragile eggs are safe from predators such as mongooses. It's also shady, sheltering the birds from the solar onslaught, which can be severe even during winter. This is the most stressful time of the year. Parents face the daunting challenge of finding enough food to sustain themselves, while sharing incubating duties at the nest. Cape vultures are faithfully monogamous, usually pairing for life. Couples share the workload equally and will continue to do so for the next 6 months, until their fledgling chick takes to the air for itself. Even then, juveniles depend on parents to help them find food until they're more than a year old. Vultures are birds of prey, but they're unlike any other raptors, such as kestrels, eagles, and their kin, which are all lethal hunters. Vultures never kill. They are the only vertebrates that rely completely on scavenging for food. "23 species occur around the world, soaring above every continent with the exception of Antarctica and Australia. 9 of these live in Africa. Most congregate on wide-open savannas teeming with great herds, while others, such as rupels and bearded vultures, patrol the craggy mountains that run almost the length of the eastern side of the continent. From the Drakensberg escarpment in the south to the rarefied reaches of Ethiopia's high Simien Mountains in the north. Wherever they spread their wings, vultures are critical cogs in the food webs of their environments, clearing up dead and decaying flesh before it can spread disease. At the foot of the Waterberg's mountains, beneath the nesting vultures, the savanna animals are also suffering. But not because they're breeding. They're locked in the grips of winter. This is the dry season, and food is in short supply for grazers and browsers. Most trees have dropped their leaves to preserve the little water they draw from the parched earth. Those that retain their foliage are doing everything in their power to prevent their leaves from being eaten. They've loaded their leaves with chemicals called tannins. These make the leaves less palatable and harder for animals such as this tsessebe antelope to digest. This winter is particularly severe. No rain has fallen for months, and only the dwindling waterholes provide refuge. While healthy young animals take the challenging conditions in their stride, one old-timer is feeling the pinch. Nearby, a small pride of lions is lazing about in the shade. In contrast to the herbivores, the challenging dry season is creating a favorable hunting ground for them. The prey animals are weak, their senses dulled by lack of food. They succumb easily. So happy days are here for the cats as they revel in the glut of food. The old giraffe is dead. It's only been a matter of hours, but already the stomach gases have bloated the carcass. The trapped gas forcefully vomited the stomach contents into the dusty surroundings. Flies are quick to arrive. They're the first opportunists to appear. A small flock of red-billed oxpeckers descends to feast on engorged ticks. Ordinarily, oxpeckers avoid corpses, unless they're very fresh. For now, they have the carcass to themselves. It won't be long, however, before the rest of the cleanup crew arrives. The sun means good flying conditions, with thermal updrafts pretty much guaranteed. The breeding vultures take the opportunity to change guard on the nest. This female's been patient for almost 18 hours. Although she's not been active at the nest, she still needs to eat to fuel her metabolism and maintain her body temperature. It's cool at this altitude on the shady cliffs. She looks around patiently, eagerly scanning the sky for her partner. To breed successfully, both parents must work in unison. It's a lifelong commitment. Nearby, another male returns to fulfill his obligations at the nest. But she's still waiting. With a brief flutter of feathers, his hungry partner takes to the wing in search of food. Vultures are amongst the biggest birds, some species tipping the scales at more than 30 pounds. While their size benefits them in numerous ways, it also means they need help taking off. This makes the Cape's cliffside home a handy launch pad. Winds striking the cliff are deflected upwards, creating updrafts that help the giant birds soar without burning too much fuel. vultures keep flapping to a minimum, preferring to use any assistance they can garner from their aerial environment. The birds gain lift by repeatedly crossing the boundaries between air pockets. Biologists refer to this as dynamic soaring. And vultures are the masters. It's even been suggested that they can see thermals in the air around them. When they find good lift, vultures spiral into it, using the rising air to climb thousands of feet into the heavens. From there, they head off in search of the dead and dying. Capable of cross-country marathons in excess of 400 miles. Their size enables them to soar over huge distances between isolated pockets of food, while relying on substantial body reserves between these sporadic feasts. By comparison, actively hunting predators are able to pursue a relatively predictable source of food. The male finally returns to his patiently waiting partner. He'll now take over care of their single precious egg. Day in, day out, for the next 5 weeks, the routine won't change. He slowly settles into his shift. Generally, there's only one chance to breed a season, so every effort is made to ensure their lone youngster survives. Around the diminishing waterhole, more and more animals congregate, drawn by the only water for miles around. It's been 2 days since the giant fell. Flies aren't the only ones who've located the treasure trove. The torn flesh belies the presence of another visitor. A lone hyena paid a fleeting visit during the night to feed on the soft underbelly. But he didn't stay long. The resident lion pride in this area guards its home ruthlessly. They've already killed 4 hyenas in the last 6 months. There's little love lost between these rival carnivores. With enough altitude gained, the vultures peel off, scanning the earth below for fresh kills. Generally, they're not fussy. Any carcass will do, from rhinos to rabbits. They have razor-sharp eyesight, 8 times better than humans. It's like using a pair of binoculars to scan the landscape below. During flight, vultures scan at an angle slightly ahead and below them. But they have a critical blind spot directly in front. This can have devastating consequences in a rapidly changing world. Human hazards, such as power lines and wind turbines, now pose a major threat. But here, they've only got eyes for food. As the vultures scan the ground for dead animals, they also keep careful tabs on each other. If one drops to the ground, it's a clue to everyone. And a sky full of circling vultures is sure sign there's a carcass. They've found the dead giraffe. A black-backed jackal has also found the carcass, but he won't stand his ground against the coming storm. The feast begins. But giraffes have tough hides. So the early birds need to target soft spots. One drawback of a scavenging lifestyle is that food is both unpredictable and in limited supply. This means that when an opportunity presents itself, there's no standing back. A dead giraffe is a huge meal. It will fill plenty of gizzards. But competition is intense. A marabou stork joins the feeding frenzy, attracted by all the activity. These huge birds are part-time scavengers, and the giraffe is too good an opportunity to miss. remain aloof, preferring to fight each other over scraps stolen from their quarrelsome colleagues rather than joining the scrum. In as little as 5 minutes, the vultures can fill themselves with enough food to last for 2 or 3 days. Their digestive system is incredible at utilizing even the poorest cuts. Bone, skin, sinew are all processed by their highly acidic stomach juices. This acid bath even kills the microorganisms that thrive in decaying flesh. Rotten meat that would strike down the average human with botulism is eaten with impunity. Having wolfed down as much as possible, up to 20% of its body weight, this one waddles off. The overstuffed birds spread their wings with their backs to the sun, using its warmth to help them digest their gluttonous meals. By the end of the day, they've made a severe dent in the giraffe. The vultures are eating the carcass from the inside out. But there's lots of meat still locked under impenetrable hide. As the sun sets, the vultures disperse to their overnight roosts. Dark shadows soon adorn the nearby trees, like macabre Christmas decorations. The feast will continue in the morning. But the vultures aren't alone. Lions may be the king of beasts, but like most monarchs, they're not above pilfering the produce of the masses. Having caught wind of the vulture feast and the surroundings, the pride has come over to investigate. The dead giraffe is an easy meal, as long as the lions find the carcass early enough. In warmer climates, the rotting flesh becomes toxic with botulism in a matter of weeks. The scavengers wake to the unwanted company. A pair of hooded vultures looks on in dismay. the pride of six gorges itself. While the vultures are banished from the table. Usually, dominant males jealously guard their meals. But the giraffe is large enough for him to tolerate the rest of the family dining alongside him. The members of his pride have had their fill. And the undertakers, mournfully gathering around, look on expectantly. But he continues to guard his spoils. With tummies bulging, the lions take cover in the shade as the day heats up. When they move away, the vultures close in. It's a game of cat and mouse. Left to their own devices, vultures will devour this carcass in the time it takes for even the quickest catnap. So the lions are sleeping with one eye open. There's nothing for it but to wait and pick on any scraps that have fallen from the royal table. Throughout the day, the lions continue to guard their bounty. A lion can eat as much as 25 pounds of meat in a sitting. And this giraffe means the pride won't need to hunt for a few days. Still, the cleanup crew must wait. For now, the pressure is off, but even so, the male is not generous. Having eaten their fill, the cats retreat to sleep off their meal. Throughout Africa, many species of vulture are in sharp decline. They're some of the most endangered birds on the continent, victims of habitat destruction, food shortages, and poaching for traditional medicine. Below the Marrakele cliffs, a cold wind blows through the prone feathers of a dead vulture. There are no maggots, a sure sign that she was poisoned. The toxin even kills the flies. Livestock farmers often leave carcasses laced with poison to kill unwanted predators such as jackals and hyenas. What's more, with the recent increase in rhino poaching, there is a threat from an even more sinister quarter. Rhino poachers seeking to hide their activities from anti-poaching patrols are now intentionally poisoning vultures. Vultures are quick to gather at the crime scenes, alerting authorities. So the poachers lace the rhino carcasses with poison to kill off the telltale scavengers. Vultures are unfortunate bystanders in this senseless, indiscriminate war. The new day holds promise for the waiting vultures. The lions have dismembered the giraffe, ultimately benefiting the birds. They quickly pounce on a discarded limb. Hooded vultures are there first. Then the larger white-backed and cape flock to the scene. But they avoid the main carcass itself. It still pays to be careful when lions could be near. One brave individual creeps closer. It seems the coast is clear. Still no lions. One by one, they venture in. Then the masses descend, realizing the carcass is theirs once more. Now it's a frantic squabble to eat what little remains. Their strong beaks are specially designed to pick at sinews and remove meat from bones. Bone fragments created by the large crushing jaws of the predators are prime targets, loaded with valuable calcium. They're especially important for laying birds, which need the mineral to make strong eggs, and for feeding their youngsters. Calcium also builds the strong, light bones needed for flight. Two lappet-faced vultures, one of the largest species in Africa, have also joined the fray. Their powerful bills make quick work of the tough hide. Although they're much larger than Cape and white-backed vultures, the sheer numbers of these smaller species muscle them out. As the amount of meat left on the giraffe rapidly diminishes, it becomes every vulture for itself. Dominant birds try to muscle others out of the way, goose-stepping and spreading their wings to intimidate rivals. It's now survival of the fittest. Soon there's little left of the majestic giraffe that once strode purposefully across this landscape. Its skin hangs as a tired glove, loosely fitting a withered skeleton. All that remains are a few maggots. and the flies still buzzing around the leftovers. But even they are slowly drifting away in search of the next meal. The cleanup crew has done its job, preventing the carcass from rotting and spreading disease. Over time, the bones will slowly decompose back into the dust that gave them birth, feeding the trees and grasses that will return to this landscape with the next rains. Dust to dust, as the great wheel of life turns on the wide open savannas of Africa. Africa's most iconic landscape, Savanna. A stage where nature's greatest dramas unfold. Famous for the Big Five, it's also home to less well-known creatures. From predator to prey, energy flows through this dynamic system. Every species has a role to play in the savanna's unique web of life. Africa is dominated by thornbush savanna, vast sweeping grasslands that cover almost half of the continent's surface. Savanna extends over 30 million square kilometers, stretching across 27 African countries and beyond. 20% of the planet's surface is dominated by grasslands. Surprisingly, the plant at the heart of the savanna's story is a humble grass. South African savanna contains a rich diversity of grass species. Countless slender stems that feed an entire ecosystem. The savanna is a complex web of life, from the plants at the bottom of the food chain to the predators at the top. Stories of life and death have unfolded on these plains for millions of years. Grassland provides a feast for herds of grazers and the carnivores that track them down. Lions are the savanna's definitive hunter. The impala instinctively runs for cover. But lions are masters of ambush. The lioness's hunting partner greets her. This is a shared success. Most hunts end in failure. This kill is good news for their pride. This meal will feed the family, including their growing cubs, curbing their hunger for several days. It is through these fatal dramas that energy flows through the savanna's dynamic food chain. Plants eaten by the herbivores ultimately also sustain the carnivores. The word savanna conjures images of open grassy plains devoid of trees, such as those of Tanzania's famous Serengeti. But these are not typical. Most savannas have many trees growing in delicate balance with the grasses. The key to the existence of savanna is light. Its trees must be widely spread, so the canopy can't close over and shade out the grasses. The other essential ingredients are warm temperatures year-round, peaking in a hot season, complete with summer rains. During this wet season, a precise amount of water, over 50 centimeters, must fall for the grasses to thrive. Last but not least, the savanna depends on its animals, whose grazing habits encourage new shoots. Harnessing the sun's energy is the first step in a cycle that ultimately feeds all the hungry mouths in this ecosystem. But the savanna is not only somewhere to eat. It's also a refuge, providing shelter for animals. Of all its creatures, none are more important to the landscape than elephants. Their feeding habits maintain these open grassy plains, which would otherwise revert to forest. Elephants live in stable groups of closely related females, led by a matriarch. She has an intimate knowledge of the landscape and, in particular, the best feeding places. It's no surprise that elephants have enormous appetites. Bush elephants are the largest of all terrestrial animals, an adult female weighing in at over 3 tons. It takes 5% of her body weight, around 150 kilograms of vegetation per day, to fuel a body this big. Every day, elephants spend up to 16 hours consuming everything from grasses to bushes, even whole trees. The herd leaves a trail of destruction behind, or so it seems. In fact, their bulldozing activity is essential to the savanna. By felling a proportion of the trees in any one area, they reduce the shady canopy, enabling light to reach the understory so grasses have a chance to grow. The fallen branches also protect these new shoots, preventing grazers reaching them. Elephant activity renews the grasses, and surprisingly, the damaged trees also benefit. Resilient species, such as acacia, have adapted to cope with their brutal pruning by re-sprouting. The acacia also relies on them to help plant its seeds. Elephants have inefficient digestion, so many of the seeds they consume pass through their gut undamaged. The dung is so rich in minerals, it provides the perfect compost for the acacia seeds to germinate. The nutrients also support other life forms. Dung beetles eat it and roll dung balls over large distances to use as nests, fully stocked with food for their larvae. These busy beetles help to fertilize the surrounding soils and spread the seeds, which take root in new areas. So the plants eaten by elephants are also fed by their dung. And the interconnected cycle of life continues. Once her family is full, the matriarch leads them on to new feeding areas. Elephants play a central role in the renewal of the landscape, making homes for a diverse community of wildlife. Africa has the world's greatest concentration of antelope, most of which live on the savanna. Blue wildebeest gather in large herds, consuming grasses rich in phosphorus and nitrogen. Once the grasses are exhausted, the wildebeest will be forced to move on, often joining mass migrations in search of fresh pastures. Wildebeest herd together for protection against predators, frequently associating with other grazers such as zebra. Remarkably, there is little competition for food between species because they have distinct feeding habits. Most of the year, there's plenty to go around, but the landscape is changing. It's the end of the dry season, a tense time on the savanna. After months without rain, the tender grasses have been cropped to ground level, nibbled by an army of hungry grazers. This hasn't killed them. If the rains come, they will resprout. But now only the old indigestible vegetation remains. At this time of year, grazers struggle to find enough to eat. Surprisingly, even in times of shortage, there's little conflict over food. The secret to life on the savanna is sharing. But competition is fierce for another reason. This is the start of the breeding season. The animals are sizing each other up as potential mates or rivals. The predators are here to pick off the weaker individuals, and the scavengers to pick up the pieces. Lions are always on the lookout for their next meal. They live in groups called prides, consisting of closely related females and the area's dominant males. Lions may be deadly predators, but they actually spend most of their lives sleeping, up to 20 hours a day. This pride is mainly active at night, when their nocturnal vision gives them greater advantage over their prey. The reflective strip under the eye helps lions to see better in low light. For now, though, they do as little as possible. Thanks to the cool shade of the tree, the family can relax. But the peace won't last. There is fierce competition amongst carnivores on the savanna. They all eat meat, which is challenging to kill. Within the pride, it's the lionesses that are the main hunters. Even with their combined power, a kill is not guaranteed. With the pride taking every chance to hunt, the savanna community must watch its back. Adult rhino, though, have little to fear. Like many savanna grazers, they're grass specialists. They lack incisors, relying instead on their strong flat lips to hoover up short grass, chewing it between massive molars. White rhino are the world's largest rhino species, like this bull, weighing in at around 2,200 kilos. This female is accompanied by her youngster, around 6 months old. But with the bull nearby, they're heading towards danger. Mothers with young normally steer clear. Bulls are known to attack other rhinos that get between them and a potential mate, even the very young. But unusually, the mother allows her calf to approach this large bull. He could easily kill the youngster with one stab of his lethal horn. But the bull's reaction is surprising. He seems to welcome the youngster's attention and responds gently, even playfully. Bulls spend most of their lives alone, but do occasionally tolerate other submissive males in their territory. After his risky adventure, the little calf returns to the safety of his mother. She is key to his survival on the savanna, protecting him for his first 2 vulnerable years of life. Although she started to wean him, the calf will rely on his mother's milk until he is a year old. Adult rhino have no natural predators because they are large, thick-skinned, and well-armed. However, calves do occasionally fall victim to lions. Rhinos have poor vision, relying instead on their excellent hearing and sense of smell to detect threats at a distance. mother can't see the lion clearly, but she can smell him. With her precious calf an easy target, she's not taking any chances. Rhino can charge at speeds up to 40 kilometers an hour, a lethal battering ram. The female is more than a match, even for a big male lion. At last the calf's back with his mother, where he can suckle in safety thanks to her devoted protection. One of the lion's favorite prey is buffalo. The young ones are an easy target. Even adults regularly fall victim. To protect themselves, buffalo find safety in numbers, living in large herds, complex, ever-changing societies of males and females. As a strong, united front, these herds can fight off an attack from a whole pride of lions. But the herds are also targeted by smaller creatures with a taste for their blood. Plagues of parasites feast on their skin. Horns are useless against this onslaught of biting insects. But buffalo have a strategy. Close cooperation with red-billed oxpeckers. These helpful birds pick off fleas, ticks, and swarming flies. Buffalo trust them to remove the tormenting insects, and the oxpeckers benefit from a constant supply of nourishing food. And wherever the herd goes, the oxpeckers go too. Communal living has advantages, but also creates a problem. For buffalo, life in the herd means many mouths to feed. So they can't be too fussy about what they eat. Their savanna staple is grass, but there are some treats on the buffalo's menu too. Being large animals, they can reach high into the savanna's bushes. Another savanna specialist is the world's largest antelope, the eland. Males are as tall as a man, around 1.6 meters at the shoulder, but are up to 10 times as heavy. Like buffalo, eland eat a combination of grass and leaves. They adapt their diet according to what is available. Eland have the peculiar characteristic of clicking as they walk. It signals dominance. The larger the bull, the deeper the clicking sound. Smaller and more elusive is another of the savanna's antelope, perhaps the most elegant of all. Kudu. Secretive creatures, they are rarely seen out in the open. Targeted by many savanna predators, kudu have camouflaged striped coats that blend into the background so they can hide in the thickets. Like all ruminant animals, this female must chew the cud. Every mouthful is chewed, swallowed, regurgitated, and chewed a little more. Bacteria from the animal's stomach helps to break down the cellulose in the leaves as it is processed for a second time. Like the kudu in its leafy hideaway, all the savanna's animals ultimately owe their existence to the variety of habitats in this unique landscape. The savanna is one of the world's richest biomes, boasting exceptional plant diversity. In some areas, over 5,000 plant species. A variety of savanna trees grace the landscape, including the resilient acacia. This definitive savanna species is not only eaten by elephant, it's the favorite food of another iconic character, the world's tallest animal, giraffe. Their extreme height, with males standing over 5 meters tall, enables them to browse the treetops. Long legs give giraffe an unusual way of walking. To avoid tripping up over their dinner plate-sized hoofs, both legs on each side move simultaneously. And although acceleration is slow, their top speed of 55 kilometers per hour enables them to outrun lions. Their stature not only provides a vantage point when it comes to predators, but also gives access to the sweetest new leaves in the canopy. This means that they don't have to compete for food with shorter animals. And it's not just their long necks that give them the advantage. They also have a prehensile 45-centimeter tongue, which extends their grasp. Thorns, the acacia tree's usual defense, don't deter them. But the trees are not completely at the giraffe's mercy. The acacia does fight back in a surprising way. As soon as a tree is eaten by browsers, its leaves produce poisonous tannins. They also emit a chemical, ethylene, into the air that can disperse over 40 meters. Incredibly, scientists have discovered the acacia are one step ahead of the giraffe. The chemicals released by a damaged tree are detected by its neighbors that rapidly activate their own chemical defenses. Within a few minutes, all the trees in the area are toxic. It's an extraordinary early warning system evolved to protect plants from hungry animals. But plant poisons aren't enough to deter the most destructive grazers of all. The matriarch and her family are tucking into another stand of trees. Elephants can tolerate high levels of tannin in their food, as well as latex and even hydrogen cyanide. This is only possible because they vary their diets seasonally, switching to grasses after the rains. Every animal is adapted to their place in the savanna's food chain. This is nature's own recycling system, where destruction ultimately promotes new life. At the end of the dry season, testosterone is flowing. In preparation for mating, wildebeest carve up the landscape into territories. The rut has begun. Each male is fighting to defend his tiny patch of turf. If he can hold his ground and guard his females, he will get the chance to mate. In the buffalo herds, males are vying for position too. Both sexes have horns, but only the males grow heavyweight headgear, forming what is known as a boss. This acts both as a weapon and as protection during head-to-head combat. It can take 8 years for a bull to win breeding females and father offspring. The zebra stallions are fired up too. A male can only control his harem of females if he can successfully fight off the competition. The challenger will steal his harem if he can win this battle. With so much to lose, the stallion's not backing down. But violence doesn't always pay. Despite their size and sharp horns, eland are peaceful creatures. Male dominance is not decided by sparring, but according to a strict social pecking order. Subtle features such as size of the dewlap, the thick skin fold under the neck, to the size of their horns determines who gets access to females. But keeping the peace is the exception to the rule at this time of year. Mature bull giraffes are generally solitary, but to gain mating rights to females, they come face to face to establish dominance. The only way to decide who's boss is a necking contest. Aiming at the legs, they each try to destabilize their opponent. A male's head is like a 30-kilogram wrecking ball at the end of a long, strong, flexible neck. Short, bony horns can cut and bruise. Giraffe fights can last for half an hour, and injuries sustained can be devastating. Jaws and necks are sometimes broken, but fights rarely prove fatal. In this instance, there is a clear winner. Head now held high, he secured himself the best chance of attracting a mate and passing on his winning genes to the next generation. His next challenge is to win over a female. Giraffe bulls darken in color as they mature. This one's in the prime of his life, and he's found a potential mate. The flick of her tail indicates she is receptive, so he now has a good chance of mating. It's no coincidence that most of the savanna community breeds at the same time. For many species, the birth of the new generation coincides with the rainy season. The coming rains will flush the savanna with fresh new grasses, vital if there is going to be enough food for the hungry new babies. Predators are able to breed year-round, enabling them to raise their young during times of plenty. Birth rates amongst lions peak when there are lots of vulnerable young prey to catch. This dominant male has already secured his mating rights to a pride of females through fierce battles with other males. He warns the competition to keep out by scent marking. He's been tracking a receptive female for days. The pair have isolated themselves from the rest of the pride for the last 48 hours. And they've started to mate, regularly once every 15 minutes. Lions mate quickly and often, up to 40 times per day and long into the night, to maximize the chance of fertilization. Eventually, the female returns to the pride. If she is now pregnant, in 3 months she will give birth. Many of the lionesses already have cubs, and feeding their demanding youngsters is thirsty work. Within a pride, females often synchronize their breeding, sharing the childcare and even the suckling duties. Cubs of a similar age are also more likely to survive, because being the same size, they have equal access to food. At 11 months old, cubs are allowed to join the adults when they go out hunting. Until then, they have to stay behind, under the watchful eye of a babysitting lioness. The breeding season is a drain on energy for all species, particularly at the end of the dry season when food quality is poor. Over recent months, the elephants have been traveling through a steadily drying landscape. At this time of year, 70% of their diet consists of trees and bushes. But elephants also eat fresh grasses, and these can't grow without water. Everything now is waiting for the rains. The matriarch sniffs the air. Elephants have an excellent sense of smell. They also have acute hearing, sensitive to low-frequency sounds, such as distant thunder, and are believed to be able to detect coming rains hundreds of kilometers away. Essential ingredient for the renewal of the savanna. Within days, the first green shoots sprout from moistened ground. Fresh food for a growing savanna community. And there are new faces everywhere. Out on an open plain, female blesbok antelope are beginning to drop their lambs. From its high vantage point, a Varro's eagle has spotted the activity. An adult is far too big to be targeted by the raptor, but newborns are vulnerable. The eagles found the next best thing. A discarded afterbirth. It makes a perfect meal. Varro's eagles mate for life, and its partner is hungry too. Eagles are efficient hunters, but they will scavenge if the opportunity arises, thus becoming a vital link in the savanna food chain, recycling the nutrients back into the system. There are new additions to the resident lion pride. One of the females has returned with her 6-week-old cubs. Isolated with their mother in the safety of a birthing den until now, they're ready to join their extended family. For the female cubs that will remain in the pride for life, this is the start of a long cooperative relationship. Born at this time of year, there should be plenty of food for the growing family. And with the cubs close in age, they'll be equally matched when it comes to seizing their share. In time, their mothers will teach the youngsters how to hunt and take their place as apex predators. For now, though, their carefree days are full of play. The rainy season has brought water in volumes, and the waterholes are full. Elephants love to get wet. The matriarch and her family indulge in a deep bath. Elephants are experts at finding drinking water, even during drought. But it's a treat to find water deep enough to plunge into. Bathing is part of an elephant's cleaning routine, which also involves scratching against trees to slough off loose skin and parasites. The whole family joins in. The savanna lies at the heart of untamed Africa, where the fortunes of animals and plants are interlinked in an eternal cycle which brings renewal and fresh growth. Now flushed green, the landscape will nourish its animals for months to come, creating energy to feed the savanna's dynamic web of life.